invite Dr. Syed Nazir Gilani. Right? He's the one who knows a lot about the campaign to bring him back. So what are the legal aspects? I mean, what are the legal ways through which his body could be brought back, and what are the legal obstacles? So Dr. Syed Nazir Gilani is a human rights lawyer, Lifetime Secretary General of the Jammu Kashmir Council of Human Rights, JKCHR. It's an NGO in special consultative status within the United Nations. Dr. Gilani has been a long-time campaigner for human rights in the divided state of Jammu and Kashmir. Could you speak for around 10 to 12 minutes explaining what is the legal situation? I think we just find it better to do like I want to see.
Thank you, Dr. Rani. And thank you, Brother. Latif Saab and Rashid Saab, Shah Saab. Two things are very important to be borne in mind when you talk about Gul Butt. One of his teachers was from Ireland, Father Macklin. He used to teach him at St. Joseph's College in Ireland. I think Alice I studied at St. Joseph's College. I haven't. So the other family closely related or associated with Butt's campaign has been the Mullet family of Pruju, because it's the only family from the United Kingdom that visited him in the prison in Tihar jail. And they were also responsible for sending him 2 bank drafts. I'm not going into the details of the amounts, but there were people who have been associated with him through thick and thin. If you want to know about Gul Butt, the first and foremost thing is that he did not fall under the category of rearrest of rear cases. It was just a normal case, a border cross. He crossed from one part of Kashmir into another part, and it's permissible, admissible under the UN resolutions, under the Pakistani constitution, even under Indian constitution as well. I was very much moved by Dr. Amin's approach that it is a question of the people, not a question of the territory. So basically, what the people of Kashmir are demanding is the equality and self-determination. Because if you want to have self-determination, you need to be equal people. You don't need to be subordinate people. So if you are a subordinate person, you cannot exceed or determine yourself. So first and foremost thing is you have to be equal. So this is what United Nations has accepted. Most people think that possibly Kashmir is part of India or part of Pakistan. It is not. Up until 1st of April 1959, an Indian was required to have a permit to enter the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Can you imagine? An Indian required a permit up to 1st of April 1959. And now is the question that we want Indians to return the remains of Gul Butt, how cruel it is. And those who say that you need to be very clear, there is a temporary presence of India in Kashmir. And we as lawyers think that that reason of India being in Kashmir has also vitiated, that has expired. Because Indians were in Kashmir to do 3 things: to protect life, honor, and territory. That was the request made by the Maharaja. And that is the agreement. No 4th item required to be performed in Kashmir. So at that point, we needed defense. The Maharaja needed defense, but the defense is no more valid because the state is distributed under 3 administrations: Azad Kashmir, Gilgit-Baltistan, and Jammu and Kashmir. So we don't need to. Zafar Khan is here. We don't need to at all go into it that whether Indian soldier is required in Kashmir, because there is no defense, no territory to be defended, because Azad Kashmir would never invade its own territory in Srinagar. So Gilgit would not invade Jammu and Kashmir. So this is the point which we have missed all along. We have not agitated it internationally. That Indian soldier was there to defend the territory. What territory? And which territory? There is no territory for them to defend. The other is to protect life. They have killed, as Dr. Anand said, 70 to 80,000 people we say round about 100,000. So if you kill 100,000 people, then you do not protect life. So the other principle under which they were admitted into the state has also, it's no more valid. And then to protect the property of the people of Kashmir. You know, the people and the habitat of Kashmir has been brutally assaulted and bruised. So it is not that Indian soldiers there. And the other important thing for an Indian soldier is the UN resolution of 21st of April 1948. According to this, it sets 3 principles for Indian soldiers to be in Kashmir. It sets out the number, the behavior, and the location. So that's one thing. So when you get this thing into now, for all practical purposes, Indian Army is now an occupied army. It's no more the army that entered on 27th of October 1947. So for us, for all purposes, legal and otherwise, it has degenerated into an occupation. So Barsa, I met Barsa, a wonderful man, in January 1974 in Muzaffarabad prison. He came to see me. With him was Master Magoo. I think Chopper would have been a small kid at that point. So he came to see me and he got some cigarettes and some fruit. So I told him that, Barsab, I do not smoke. He said, I know it already, you don't smoke. Then I said, what is the rationale behind getting this addictive material? He said, when you will go to see other prisoners, they will ask you, what did the visitor bring for you? They won't ask for the apple or the banana, they will ask for the packet of cigarette. So he was a vigilant. He knew the life in prison, and my father's cousin, they studied together. Father Mehman said that he was a genius, because when Father Mehman taught me at the University of Kashmir in Srinagar, he took us to the prison to see how Bhatt was able to escape. So he said that I just want to see my student, or I can see Al-Zatar as well here. So he was so, you cannot say that he was an ordinary person, he was a genius of his time. On 23rd of July 76, he was transferred from Srinagar to Tihar jail on 23rd. And on 13th September, Barsa filed a petition that his fetters and the chains should be removed, and the fetters were removed. While saying these things, he was not realist of the realities. So the court ordered that yes, the fetters should be removed. It was on 13th of September 79. He filed the application on 13th of September, but on 2nd of January, the fetters were removed, but he was confined to ward number 18. Then he was transferred to ward 16, which was the death cell. So he was in death cell. But on 6th of August, the High Court of Delhi, 1982, they said his petition is pending with the President of India, so he cannot be classed as one under sentence of death. So he was removed from the death cell. So these are very important things. So, and he was removed to ward number 1 on 27th of April 1981. And the High Court said that his confinement in the death cell is arbitrary and illegal. So the law was on his side all along. What is important that in 79, Jammu and Kashmir Liberation Front did write to United Nations, and the UN Secretary General did transfer that to United Nations in Geneva, Human Rights Commission, and they took it with the government of India. And the Amnesty as well, I think it was Amnesty International Copenhagen in Denmark, they also took up the case. What was missing in Barsab's case is the connectivity. People never connected in the campaign, they did it individually. We also launched a campaign in 1981, Kashmiri Tul Bait Har, Al-Zatar would hear me out, and we did send the telegrams throughout the world. Even Ziaul Haq had asked the Foreign Office to keep an eye, and I think they were trying to have him released in exchange. So what needs to be done that Bhatt Sahib is a state subject and he is a foreigner in the Indian prison. He can be a Pakistani as well under Article 257, at the same time Act 74. The government of Pakistan, the government of Azad Kashmir need to put enough pressure on the government of India that you are holding a person, you have hanged him for something that you believe because that he crossed into and that he committed a murder. The unfortunate thing is that he never got a good legal defense and he was hanged under very unfortunate circumstances. I will not go into those circumstances. Otherwise, the Supreme Court of India had stayed his execution. I will give you the date when it was stayed. I think it was in 81 that the Supreme Court of India did stay his execution, that he cannot be hanged. The Supreme Court of India meanwhile stayed his execution on 11th of April 1983. So he was perfectly boxed legally and his safety was not under threat. Circumstances did flare up and he was executed. Now the question is very simple, that how to ask the Indian government. The first and foremost thing is that Kashmir government, the J&K government, can very easily be asked by the government of Azad Kashmir, because under the United Nations resolutions, the government that we have had in JK, Jammu and Kashmir, it has to be different government than the government that we have. It has to have a representation from Gilgit, a representation from Azad Kashmir, and a representation from Jammu and Kashmir. So Azad Kashmir government can very easily make a demand and lodge it to the government of Pakistan, because the government of Pakistan has assumed responsibilities in AJK, Azad Kashmir, under UNCIP resolutions. So it was totally the responsibility of these two governments to take the first step. But they haven't done so far. And it's very, because I have been visiting United Nations from I think the 90 or 84, but so far we have never ever agitated Bhatt Sahib's case at the United Nations. But every year in September, the government of Pakistan, the delegation of the government of Pakistan goes and addresses the General Assembly. We have never taken up the issue at the United Nations. That here is a person, because United Nations has outsourced that Kashmir, this Kashmir, into the custody of India and Pakistan. So they are custodians. In a way, so that element of legality is missing from our imagination. We have never asked India that Kashmir has been outsourced to you for one reason only. The plebiscite is to be arranged by the government of Jammu and Kashmir. India has nothing to do with plebiscite. So those Kashmiris who think Hindustan ने हमें हक खुद इरादियत नहीं दिया, आज़ाद होने नहीं दिया, are very wrong, fundamentally wrong. Hindustan, India has to do only one thing. It has to provide law and order during plebiscite. The whole package of administration of plebiscite is in the hands of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. And we have never demanded that from the government of Jammu and Kashmir. And the government of Azad Kashmir is also sitting docile so far. Because, Dr. Anand, our tragedy is that we know very little about the Kashmir case. The Kashmiris themselves. Because it is even not clear whether, how could they hang him when the execution was stayed by the Supreme Court of India. Did they go first to have it vacated? I don't know myself, because it's all a mystery. A person whose execution was stayed by the Supreme Court of India, how can a judge in Srinagar issue a death warrant, a black warrant? It cannot be possible unless you vacate first the execution stay from the Supreme Court. So basically, we, the people of Kashmir, should take the maximum blame for not advocating our case and not advocating as rightly. Shaukat is very rightly and clear on this. And so, when you, Dr. Anand, India does not want a symbol in Kashmir. I think nobody used the word symbol. He is a symbol for freedom, symbol to be prepared to offer himself for the supreme sacrifice. He is the person who said to the judge that there is hardly a rope in Jammu and Kashmir that can hang me or fit around my neck. So this is a historical statement made by a Kashmiri way back at that point. And it's very well recorded. And if you, anyone, if you are interested, kindly do go through the last interview that Kumkum Chadha arranged with Bhatt Sahib in the Tihar jail. It's very interesting. I think there are some 50 to 60 questions, and it is worth reading that interview, because the Tihar jail superintendent, he did confirm that yes, the petition is pending with the President of India, and the first interview was refused, but I think then she succeeded to have it. Maybe through, she might have sent to Bhatt Sahib the questionnaire. But what I would propose here today, that it is a very simple matter, which is that you have to proceed and agitate the legal machinery in India, because we have yet to challenge the Indian Supreme Court. Even the government of Kashmir can be challenged. They could be asked, have I run over? Okay. The government of, we were lucky enough, Mal Latif is here, so I think 3 people are very important here. Mal Latif Sahib, Afzal Taher Sahib, and Professor Zafar Khan. I can't see anybody else who know that the Chief Minister of Kashmir was a very close friend of Bhatt Sahib, Farooq Abdullah. And they were of the same political thought in the beginning. He also wanted to liberate Kashmir. So the government of Jammu and Kashmir could be asked to make an application to the government of India that we have with you a bilateral agreement, and whether that kindly return the remains. But much more important than that is that Section 18, I have written it somewhere here, of Indian Penal Code. I think those who are interested to go on this on a research project, or who are interested to further go into making an input in Bhatt Sahib's return, Section 18 says Indian Penal Code. It defines India. India means the territory of India excluding the state of Jammu and Kashmir. So a Kashmiri does not fall within the penal system of India. So the Section 18 defines India minus Kashmir. So we have a very strong case. Pakistan has a very strong case. But the diaspora can play a very crucial role, because we are state subjects. United Nations resolutions protect our return in safety and dignity. So until the resolution of the state of Jammu and Kashmir, on the basis of the quality of people, not territory, as Dr. Anand said, we can enforce this right. We can ask the British government in our own right as well. But I do not believe in this routine, what you call it, cycle-style work that we ask the members of parliament to sign a petition. It would not move India at all. It would, the whole British parliament signs, India would not. Because India is a very, an author has written a book about India, India without makeup. I think it's Dr. Shaw. I read it way back when I was a student of college. It says that Indian civil society is like an onion. You peel off the one layer, another layer comes up. So it's not it's multifaceted society. You can have Modi ji in Gujarat in one shape, you can have him in Delhi in a different shape, you can have him in America as a third different person. You know, it's very compact, but you have very decent Indians as well. In particular, late Justice Karkunde, Chief Justice of the Bombay High Court. Now we have Justice Rajinder Sachar. These people can be of tremendous help to us. And I should take my hat off to Palak for his very brilliant work. I think Shaukat was very right. It was very difficult to hold back your tears, because I met him in '74 when I was myself a prisoner. But when you know what his mother said, she used a word. If I can quickly find that. नेकार ओस्कारा, नेकार कश्मीर में कार काम को कहते हैं, और कार is work, piece of work. Car is Persian word as well. She said, innocent woman, simple, that he was devoted to good work, and he suffered in Pakistan, he suffered in India. But I think as Palak has found a way around it, that the technology can help us to overcome the problem of getting back to the source, connecting with the people in Srinagar, in Jammu. But there are people, I think it could have been even much better, the Sikhs. I was not that much happy with the statement made by that Sikh. He said, India is secular. Somebody should have explained to him that here is a man who was hanged. We are not asking India to return the remains in lieu of India being a secular country. No. It is an entitlement of a family. You cannot punish a person after death. Because after death, the dead body does not belong to the state. It belongs to the people of Kashmir, to the family of Barsa. I think I have said enough. If there are any questions, I will address them later. But I must say, Dr. Anand, I take your hat off. Thank you for putting together this very brilliant event, and Ali Adalat and Shams, those who have been involved in this, and friends who have come. At least I have seen Malal Lateef after a long time, and it is a privilege for me. So, Kashmiri mein Urdu mein kehte hain. Do you understand Urdu? Some of you? No. Yeah. There is a very beautiful way of putting it in Urdu. अगर तर्ज़ तकल्लुम में कुछ बदएहतियाती हुई हो तो माफ करें. तर्ज़ तकल्लुम means mode of address. If I have been in any way less than formal or less than civil in my presentation, kindly ignore that. Thank you very much.